Level 1. Early Bird. You arrive at basic training with your civilian clothes, your personal belongings, and whatever expectations you had about military life. Those expectations don't last long. Your days become highly structured. You wake up early, very early. You make your bed. You shave. You put on your uniform. You clean your living area. You form up with everyone else. And suddenly, you're moving because someone told you to move. You eat because it's time to eat. You train because it's time to train. You sleep because it's time to sleep. Basic training isn't simply about teaching you how to fight. It's about teaching you how to function inside a system. You learn discipline. You learn teamwork. You learn how to follow instructions under pressure. You learn that your actions affect everyone around you. If one person makes a mistake, the entire group may suffer the consequences. The Army is beginning to teach you something that will follow you throughout your entire career. You are no longer operating completely as an individual. You are part of a team. Physically, basic training can be exhausting. You're marching, running, carrying equipment, learning weapons procedures, practicing field skills, learning first aid, learning how to move, communicate, and operate as a soldier. You came from a world where you could make your own choices. Now, someone else controls your schedule. Your instructors inspect your uniform, your equipment, your room. Eventually, you graduate. And for the first time, you officially become a soldier. Level 2, First Duty. Now you arrive at your first permanent unit. This is where Army life becomes real. You're no longer surrounded exclusively by other recruits. You're surrounded by experienced soldiers. Some have been in the Army for years. As a new private, your responsibilities are relatively limited. You're expected to learn. You show up on time. You maintain your equipment. You perform your assigned tasks. You listen, and you don't make the same mistake twice. Your days can vary enormously depending on your job. An infantry soldier may spend significant time training in the field. A mechanic may spend hours working on vehicles. A communications soldier may spend the day maintaining systems. A medic may spend the day training for emergencies. The Army isn't one job. It's thousands of jobs inside one organization. But regardless of your specialty, you're still learning how to be useful. You aren't simply being trained anymore. You're expected to contribute. You may stand watch, clean equipment, perform maintenance, attend physical training, go to classes, conduct exercises, and sometimes spend long periods doing things that seem completely unrelated to combat. A lot of Army life isn't dramatic. It's preparation. Then, slowly, you gain experience. People start trusting you with more responsibility. And eventually, you move up. Level 3, the Sergeant. After spending time at the bottom, you become a non-commissioned officer, a sergeant. Now other soldiers depend on you. You may lead a small team. You are expected to train soldiers, correct mistakes, maintain standards, track readiness, solve problems, and protect the people underneath you. Your soldiers may come to you with problems that have nothing to do with their actual military job. Money problems, family problems, relationship problems, performance problems, motivation problems. Sometimes they simply don't know what to do. And now you're the person they look toward. You still have your own duties, but leadership has become another full-time responsibility. If one of them fails to prepare their equipment, that's your problem. If someone isn't physically ready, that's your problem. If someone doesn't understand their job, that's your problem. If your team performs badly during training, your leadership is questioned. You begin learning one of the hardest lessons in the Army. Being responsible doesn't mean having complete control. Your soldiers are still individuals. You can't physically force someone to care. You have to lead them. And good sergeants discover that yelling isn't leadership. Leadership is knowing when to push, when to teach, when to listen, and when to step in. Your reputation becomes even more important. Your soldiers are watching everything you do. If you demand standards from them, but ignore those standards yourself, they'll notice. If you stay calm when things go wrong, they'll notice that too. Level 4, the First Sergeant. Eventually, some enlisted soldiers reach senior leadership positions. One of the most important is the First Sergeant. Now you're responsible for an entire company-level group of soldiers. Your world becomes much bigger. You may be responsible for hundreds of people, depending on the organization. You aren't personally checking every rifle. You aren't personally training every soldier. Instead, you're creating a system that makes sure those things happen. Your day might involve meetings, personnel issues, training plans, readiness reports, discipline, morale, family concerns, logistics, and constant problem solving. You may start your morning dealing with one issue and finish the day dealing with 5 completely different ones. The problems don't stop because you're tired. Your soldiers still need leadership. The mission still exists. The organization still has deadlines. At this level, leadership becomes less about physical toughness and more about judgment. You have to know which problems matter immediately, which problems can wait, and which problems should be delegated. You also become responsible for the culture of your organization. If standards are strong, you help maintain them. If morale collapses, leadership has to respond. If soldiers stop trusting their leaders, performance suffers. You're no longer simply leading people. You're managing an environment. Level 5, the officer. Instead of rising through the enlisted ranks, you become an officer. Your responsibilities change immediately. You're not simply asking, how do I complete this task? You're asking, what is the objective? What resources do I need? What could go wrong? How do I organize people to accomplish this? Your job becomes increasingly focused on planning and decision-making. And that sounds powerful. But there's a catch. The bigger the responsibility becomes, the bigger the consequences of your mistakes. Suddenly, dozens of soldiers are looking to you. You have to make decisions, sometimes with incomplete information, sometimes under pressure, sometimes without enough time, and sometimes there is no perfect answer. You choose the best option available. Then you accept responsibility for the outcome. When you're a junior soldier, you may be judged by how well you execute. As a leader, you're judged by the performance of the organization. Level 6, the colonel. Now you're operating at an even higher organizational level. You're no longer primarily concerned with individual tasks. You're concerned with formations, operations, resources, readiness, and long-term planning. Your decisions can affect thousands of soldiers. You work with other senior leaders. You attend meetings. You review plans. You analyze problems. You make recommendations. You spend a significant amount of time communicating. At this level, communication isn't just talking. It's translating complicated information into decisions. You may have 10 different people giving you 10 different pieces of information. You have to understand the situation, then explain what needs to happen next. And the higher you go, the more political and organizational complexity enters your world. Different units have different priorities. Different leaders have different opinions. Resources are limited. Time is limited. But the mission remains. Your job is to keep everyone moving in the same direction. Level 7, the general. Then you reach the level most people associate with the Army, general officer. At this point, your life is almost completely different from the life of the recruit who stood on the parade ground years earlier. You may command enormous organizations. You may be responsible for thousands or even tens of thousands of personnel. Your calendar is packed. Briefings, meetings, planning sessions, travel, senior leader discussions, training exercises, operational decisions, and constant communication. You don't personally inspect every soldier. You don't personally operate the equipment. You don't personally execute the mission. Your job is to build the organization that does. And that's the final transformation. At the bottom of the Army, your question is, what am I supposed to do? As you rise, the question becomes, how do I make my team successful? Then, how do I make my organization successful? And eventually, how do I make this entire force capable of accomplishing its mission? Your responsibility becomes enormous, and so does the pressure, because at this level, your decisions can affect thousands of people.